It has been a huge honour to be Prime Minister of this great country, in particular to lead the nation in mourning the death of Her late Majesty the Queen after 70 years of service, and welcoming the accession of His Majesty King Charles III. In just a short period, this government has acted urgently and decisively on the side of hard-working families and businesses. We reversed the national insurance increase. We helped millions of households with their energy bills and helped thousands of businesses avoid bankruptcy. We are taking back our energy independence, so we are never again beholden to global market fluctuations or malign foreign powers. From my time as Prime Minister, I am more convinced than ever that we need to be bold and confront the challenges that we face. As the Roman philosopher Seneca wrote, "It's not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It's because we do not dare that they are difficult." We simply cannot afford to be a low-growth country where the government takes up an increasing share of our national wealth, and where there are huge divides between different parts of our country. We need to take advantage of our Brexit freedoms to do things differently. This means delivering more freedom for our own citizens and restoring power to democratic institutions. It means lower taxes so people can keep more of the money that they earn. And it means delivering growth that will lead to more job security, higher wages, and greater opportunities for our children and grandchildren. Democracies must be able to deliver for their own people. We must be able to outcompete autocratic regimes where power lies in the hands of a few. And now more than ever, we must support Ukraine in their brave fight against Putin's aggression. Ukraine must prevail, and we must continue to strengthen our nation's defences. That's what I have been striving to achieve, and I wish Rishi Sunak every success for the good of our country. I want to thank Hugh, Francis, Liberty, my family and friends, and all the team at Number 10 for their love, friendship and support. I also want to thank my protection team. I look forward to spending more time in my constituency and continuing to serve South West Norfolk from the backbenches. Our country continues to battle through a storm. But I believe in Britain. I believe in the British people, and I know that brighter days lie ahead. Thank you.
Prime Minister Liz Truss, in her final statement in office as First Lord of the Treasury, leaving with her husband Hugh and 2 daughters, and a statement that tried to combine, I suppose, acknowledging what she felt were some of the limited achievements, and then an expression of regret as well for what had not been possible. So I suppose trying to make the best of what everyone would agree is, from her point of view, an extremely disappointing job for what other people would see as a real failure. Nick Eardley's still with me. What did you make of the tone of that, Nick, and the content?
It tempts you to put a positive spin on what's happened over the last few weeks, and Liz Truss talking about the action the government did take on energy bills ahead of winter, that it did take on reversing the national insurance increase. Interesting that Ms Truss did still talk about believing in a low tax economy, yes, something she wanted to deliver, but the way she did it caused economic turmoil, didn't it? And interesting there, just towards the end, pledging to stay on as a backbench MP and to support the new Prime Minister from the backbenches in the House of Commons. That will mean that we have both Ms Truss, Boris Johnson and Theresa May still in the Commons. I think that's the first time ever that we've had 3 former Prime Ministers still serving in the Commons.
I think that's probably right, Nick. I mean, you'd have to go back in the history books, and I can't think of a time when there would be another 3 former Prime Ministers. 2 certainly, but not not 3. These are the scenes above Whitehall in central London. The sun's now out, and it's a much nicer day than it was when it started earlier when we arrived. It was rather wet. The sun is out, and the Prime Ministerial cavalcade is on its way up Whitehall, switching lanes, and everything's been cleared in terms of the access towards, probably towards Trafalgar Square, we think, and then up to Trafalgar Square to turn left down the Mall and along to Buckingham Palace there. So a grand processional route which is very familiar to those of you who follow all the big state occasions. There we are through Parliament Square with Lord Nelson surveying the scene from Nelson's column, and Trafalgar Square bathed in lovely sunshine through Admiralty Arch, and then down along the Mall. Admiralty Arch, of course, which was one of the important parts of the government's own property portfolio in central London, but was sold a few years ago and is being redeveloped. Along the Mall, which is still looking rather green in October, and along past the flank of St James's Park on the left-hand side, and then the Clive Steps on the right-hand side, all the way down, and then past Clarence House, which of course the King and the Queen Consort were where they were staying last night, and they've just made their way, as Nicholas Witchell was telling us, to Buckingham Palace for these 2 audiences. They came back to London especially for this purpose, and the King therefore is waiting in Buckingham Palace to give an audience, a final audience, to Prime Minister Truss. They'll meet again, I'm sure, in different contexts, but a final audience as Prime Minister for Liz Truss. Maybe they'll reflect on the last few weeks and the difficulties that they've already been discussing in the previous 3 audiences. And then, of course, there'll be a gap of a few minutes. It's all done rather efficiently. It'll be like clockwork. Then we'll see Rishi Sunak being taken to the palace almost immediately, where he will be having an audience with the King and will be invited by the King to form the new government following his election as leader of the Conservative Party. So it'll all happen very quickly, and it's only when that audience takes place and the King and Mr Sunak shake hands that Mr Sunak will formally become Prime Minister and First Lord of the Treasury. That's the moment it happens. And that, by the way, is the reason why lots of heads of state around the world haven't actually put out a formal statement yet to congratulate Mr Sunak, because they're waiting for this audience to take place, because in strict terms of protocol they are waiting for him to become formally named as Prime Minister. So there they go, into the famous quadrangle inside Buckingham Palace there, over to the visitors' entrance, where they'll be escorted up to the first floor to meet the King. And the BBC's political editor, Chris Mason, is watching these images with me. And Chris, we were just underlining earlier, we think what's happening today, the shortest serving Prime Minister in British history, going in to resign, the first Prime Minister of British Asian origin, the youngest for 200 years. It's a day of many milestones.
It is a day of many precedents, a day of many milestones, and yet such has been the turbulence in British politics on an unprecedented scale that there's a familiarity, isn't there, to this constitutional choreography that we're witnessing as the Prime Minister, for she is still that for just the next couple of moments. Liz Truss arrives at Buckingham Palace for this audience with His Majesty, her husband following as well. Worth sparing a personal thought, I think, regardless of your politics, for Liz Truss this morning, reaching just 7 weeks ago the ultimate pinnacle of British politics, achieving an ambition that so many in this postcode aspire to and so many don't achieve. She managed that, and yet so quickly, with such efficiency and such ruthlessness on the part of her backbenchers, she has been dispatched. A conclusion from her party that her programme for government was simply untenable. And then, as you say, a new Prime Minister within the next half hour or so, as Rishi Sunak comes in for his audience. And so many unprecedented moments, or at least moments that you have to go a long, long way back into history to find a precedent for, with his arrival. Firstly, his age, the youngest Prime Minister since Lord Liverpool in 1812, the first Prime Minister of British Asian origin. And then he confronts you a colossal in tray. Now, I know we were saying this just 7 weeks ago about Liz Truss. He faces all of those same challenges on top of the huge challenges as a result of what's happened in the last 7 weeks. Bluntly, the